But why would I say we should use the system theory for our work? Well, I find Agile is working great for self-managing teams and for helping teams to develop. It's a nice body of methodologies and frameworks, but somewhere we get to the point where we want to achieve business agility, where we need to think about a larger organization, about systems. And Agile itself is kind of lacking a theoretical body. And I found the theory of social systems very helpful to get this body, and combined with Agile frameworks and principles, I think it can help us to bring Agile to the next level. And what I want to do is to have a short introduction or a short view on the system theory with you, based on some provocative statements that I'm giving that are based on some assumptions of system theory, and then see how we can use this for our daily work as Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, Agile leaders, or even developers. Now, one thing we say, or a lot of people say, hey, there are no humans in the system theory. And that is true and not true at the same time, because the system theory is talking about three different systems. Like we have the organic system, which is based on biochemical processes and just everything from plant to animal to human, which is an organic system. And then another system is the psychic system, so based off thoughts and patterns of recurring thoughts. And we already see, to think, you need some kind of brain, but it's just the environment of the psychic system. And the psychic system can influence the body, but it's also only an influence. So we have an environment and a system, and you can only think a system together with its environment. Yeah, so this is one basic assumption of the system theory, but these two systems are separated. And there is a third system, which would be the social system. And as we can see, it's not constituted of humans, it's constituted of communication. Yeah, so of course you need an organic system and a psychic system to somehow communicate, but the social system itself looks at communication and not of humans that are maybe part of this. When we look in the work environment, we can say, okay, the psychic system, the social system is of interest. Now I get to my first provocative statement, which would be, you cannot control a system, no matter what you do, in a causal linear way. And to have a look at this, just what can we do to try to understand how people act and behave? Yeah? And when we try to understand a team or a system, there is a nice example given by Fritz B. Simon about, imagine you're going to a soccer match for the very first time. You're in the stands and you're observing what happens on the pitch. But the nice thing is you can only see the ball and the referee, because everyone else is wearing invisibility cloak. Yeah, so you can only see the ball and the referee. And now you want to make sense of what does the referee do. And you don't know that he is a referee, yeah, that you have never been to a soccer match. You just try to figure out, what is this guy doing there? And one model that we often use is the trait model. So you look at him and say, okay, that's the way he is. So he seems to be extroverted. He seems to be in the middle and just running up and down the pitch. And I can watch him here quite well. But you see, that's not a good explanation for his behavior, I guess. You can see the behavioral model, which is about, there is a sense and there is a reaction. So this makes more sense because you see he's moving according to where the ball is moving. But it really does not really help you to explain and understand how this person is functioning, what is happening there. And also the action model. So this person might have some basic assumptions, some beliefs, some values, some principles he's living for. And if you imagine replacing this person with another one with completely different beliefs, with different sense and reaction patterns, with different traits, they would behave in the same way. So there must be another explanation, which is looking at this with a systemic view. Because if you now imagine everyone puts off this invisibility cloak and you see the people, you suddenly see, okay, so when the person holds up a yellow card, there has been a foul. Yeah, and it depends on other people's relationship and behavior. It's not because he's so extroverted and is waving with a yellow card, for example. So you need to have other people and the relationships and so on to really understand the behavior of a single person. And this is one of the first learnings here. Look at the context of the group, and a group can be a team, a department, a segment, a whole organization, and not only at the behavior of individuals. Because a system, when we now go into what some properties of a system, also like a soccer game, yeah, a system needs some boundaries. So you see, you have the clear boundaries of the pitch, you have the lines and so on, and you have it is clear who is on the pitch and who is not, and only the people on the pitch are part of the system. And this is the same for organizations also. And a system must and will always have boundaries because they help to reduce complexity, which also means when transferring this to our organizational life, we will always have silos because we see boundaries as silos. A system, an organization without silos cannot survive because complexity would be overwhelming. So reducing silos or to break down the silos would be a bad idea. You just need to make sure that your structures and maybe incentives and other things are in place so that there is no silo thinking and behavior that is dysfunctional. Another thing that systems need are relations. So you need to see who is playing in the same team, who is the opponent, what is, how are they related to each other? Yeah, this is an important topic, and the purpose. So in a soccer match, it's clear to win this game, to keep the game up and going. In general, we can say every system has the main purpose to stay alive. And this means for companies in an environment, the main purpose is to earn enough money to survive, yeah, like it or not. It's not nice things you can write on posters. It's the soul or survivability of the system. This is the main purpose of a company. Now, looking at this, what a system creates, and now coming back to this metaphor of soccer, a system creates structures. Like we have the clear rules when it is a foul, when we have a free kick, when someone gets a yellow card. So there are clear structures in the system, and the system always creates the structures. There are patterns. So, for example, if you have Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi on the pitch, then suddenly 2 or 3 players are trying to defend against this person, which is a pattern that is occurring because of some changes in the system. There are processes like, for example, a team has practiced specific standard situations like free kicks, corner kicks, and they are doing this like a clear process. You have roles like you have the defender, the goalie, you have the midfielder, you have the referee. All these are roles that are needed in the system that help people understand what role do I play here. And there is a kind of autonomy. And this is very important because every system has this autonomy in regards of it cannot be controlled by the outside, because every try to influence the system or control the system in a linear causal way from the outside is going to fail because there is a system boundary. And even the coach, the trainer, you might say, okay, but he can influence the system directly by substituting people or players on the field. That is not really influencing the system because this creates a totally new system. Imagine you bring in Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, you have a completely different match than before. So the system has changed fundamentally. Yeah, so that's why just calling on the pitch and hoping that people or that the players listen to this is something that can be helpful, but maybe not. Yeah, so he cannot directly control the system. And if we transfer this now to some responsibilities and expectations in the Agile world, especially looking at the Scrum Master role, for example, we see here is written, the Scrum Master is accountable for the Scrum team's effectiveness. So this is a copy from the Scrum Guide. And reading this and knowing about the system theory, as a Scrum Master, this sounds a little bit unfair because, you know, you cannot be accountable for the behavior of a system, and the team is building a known system. What you can be responsible or accountable for is your actions. So what are you doing to support the team, but not for the result? Only the system itself is accountable for its results. So what you can do is try with your actions to influence the system so that better structures are created, so that there is a different result coming out. And how about this? Looking in a slightly other direction, looking at the product owner role. When we're reading the Scrum Guide, we see the product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product. The developers who will be doing the work, they are responsible for sizing. The product owner may influence the developers by helping them understand and select trade-offs. And there is often this common expectation, the product owner is responsible for good requirements. And talking about the system theory, this as a product owner, I would be curious how to achieve the same understanding, for example, because another provocative statement here would be, you will never have this. And something we can learn from this, implications from system theory, is why the work in iterations and increments is so important. Because when we imagine a customer is explaining something to the product owner, we must assume that the customer has his own constructed reality. And if he now explains this to the product owner has his own constructed reality. And we can see there is some kind of overlap here. We assume that we understood each other because we are asking questions, we are listening to each other, but in reality, we can only say that we really understood what the other person meant if we see the result of something. So now when we go into development, we can say after the first iteration, we may see, oh, looking at the increment, we see, oh, we did not really understand what the customer wanted. But that's no problem because we have more iterations, and with each iterations we get the feedback from the customer, and in the end we hopefully have reached a common understanding that leads to good products. And that's why the customer is so important in this process, that we need to get this feedback and really work together to get a real good product. But one learning out of this is you should never expect to really understand each other, because this is just not working because of this constructivism that is shown in the system theory. So we need to implement feedback loops and do small experiments, not only when working for a product, but also when we are working together in a team or in an organization. And one last provocative statement I want to share with you is, in an organization, the all good state is ever elusive. So a system needs to balance areas of conflicts. It will not ever be good in an organization. You will always have losers somewhere. Because if you plan an intervention to better the situation for one party, always keep in mind there will be another party that will lose something. Because systems are very complex things, and systems are always functional in their environment. Even if you see or find they are acting dysfunctional, they are working so that they can survive. So if you try to change something, there might be some implications that you cannot count with. And this is because of some interdependencies, which means in the same system, if you do something at the one position, something can happen at another part of the system, or you can have structural coupling. So systems are connected somehow. They are not directly controlling each other, but if you change something at system A, something else is happening in system B. And this can be very complex and you cannot foresee it. There is some kind of emergence. So something can happen which you cannot expect. Like when you have Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch or Messi, they can do things nobody is expecting in the system. And there might be disruptions. So you can disrupt the system and you can do it intentionally. So you can try to insert something in the system to make it restructure. And this can be a good thing, like an antithesis. So this is a disruption that really leads to new structures that are meaningful and maybe helpful for achieving a certain goal. But it can also be that the disruption is only destabilizing the system and is having no positive impact. Yeah? So it's very difficult to really understand this topic, and we could talk hours about this. But the main message is, be careful with your interventions or improvements, because have in mind they always will have negative implications for someone, because the system is the way it is today because it survived this way. And if you're changing something at the systems, even if you think you are improving the system, this could lead to unforeseen consequences. Now, what can we learn from this as an agilist? So what would be a helpful stance here based on the system theory? I would propose 4 things. Defining an attitude or mindset that integrates the stance of multi-perspective, because every person constructs their own reality, which means it cannot be about who is right or wrong. It cannot only be how well does this fit to the context and does lead us to a good shared goal. And this also allows hardly any topic to remain a taboo within an organization, and this is good, even if this comes or leads to more conflicts, but a system like an organization needs to balance conflicts. So the interesting question is, how can different perspectives lead us better towards a common goal? The second thing is self-care, because based on this construction, there comes one consequence, and this means you as a person, as an individual, you are not dependent on other person based on how you perceive a situation. So no one else can implant some bad feelings inside you. Yeah, so it's always something you can decide how you want to perceive a situation. And this means you have a big accountability for yourself. And as I said, there might be, with this multi-perspectives, there will be conflicts coming up. So you need to take care of yourself and have some space or safe rooms to recharge your batteries, but also be aware that no one else is responsible for your feelings, for how you perceive organizational situations and events. And this is all combined with a systemic humility, because if we see that every system is the way it is because it survives in its context, we can say a system cannot be dysfunctional in itself. It can just be perceived by you as dysfunctional. And if you try to change something there, you might also, as I said, you should be very cautious and very sensible, because every change in the system will change also something else in the system that you might not foresee, because it's a complex thing and there might be someone who is losing something that he likes. And this is what we see in almost every change process. And so we should be very or have a systemic humility in this regard. And the last thing is the context sensitivity, because the behavior of humans, of individuals, makes only sense if we see them in a specific context. And having this perspective helps us also to see room for growth. And because then we can say, okay, and why is this person behaving the way in this context? So it's not about psychology and just telling people how they are and how they should be better. But now we can really focus on how can we create a structure that this person can bring his full potential to the table. And this is not depending on his psychic system, but on our social system. So here would be a short wrap-up, the 4 perspectives or the 4 stances: the multi-perspective, the systemic humility, self-care, and context sensitivity. And the 3 recommendations based on system theory: be careful with your interventions, have in mind they always will have negative implications for someone, look at the context of the group, not at individuals, and don't ever expect to really understand each other, implement feedback loops, and do small experiments.